I remember, me and Katie were doing Zoom, and we had, really used it a lot. And then we did that recording down in Australia back in 2020 in February
Yeah,
when I was there, when all of you jumped on.
right.
And then right after that your dad came back and said, "We're never going to use it again." So that was funny.
Yeah, times change. There's no doubt about it.
And now
Boy,
everybody uses Zoom. I mean, it's
oh, they do.
it's just part of running a business. If you don't know how to use Zoom,
I know.
you can't run your business.
And you think of that. I remember what an amazing technology a fax machine was, but boy, you didn't want to leave it in the sunlight, or it was like disappearing ink. It
Yep.
would it would evaporate, and you'd have a blank sheet. But that right there was like no more. Put it in the mail and receive it a week and a half later. I mean, just instantly there it was. In fact, I remember with our previous company, we went to Japan. Holy cow! And that was just booming. And they would fax their orders in all night, and we'd have to have somebody come in the middle of the night and reload it, and you just had stacks of orders that were just coming nonstop all night long. And it was like from Japan to here. And before we ever went to Japan, we were doing 7 million a month in just
Wow.
shipping out of Salem to Japan. Then once we got over there, it built up to 45 million a month, and it was
Wow.
just growing, and yeah, incredible. But
Yeah, now
yeah,
you talk about faxing. You don't even need a fax machine anymore. There's
I
there's
know.
there's apps on your phone. There's apps on your computer. You
Oh
can
yeah,
you
I take
can
a
you can still fax people right from your
yeah,
computer.
I just take a picture with my phone of something and send it to whoever. It might be my signature, might be a contract, my taxes. Take a picture, send it to the accountant. Just from wherever you're at.
Yep. Yep. You can send a whole file. I remember again going back to 2019, 2020 when your dad was coming up with Stemolytics. And he said, "Well, I want you to know everything about Stemolytics before you go to Australia." And so he sent me, oh, one night, I bet he sent me 20 files.
Holy cow!
And he might have messed been one of those nights when he was sleeping in his office, and he sent me
Oh
20
yeah.
files. And then he called me up the next day and he said, "Did you read them all?" I'm like, "No, not yet."
Oh, that's crazy. Well, we had a great Mauer Mountain. In fact, I had the Japanese up Sunday, and then had one of the Bacchinis last night, still up there till about 11, and slowly getting things cleaned up, put away, and ready
All
for
right.
another year. But boy, I cannot believe it's. This was the biggest Mauer Mountain we've ever had. It was,
Wow.
it was over 30 years ago. I told Dad, I said, you know what, we've got this. And with our previous company, we called it the Executive Challenge. And I said, we got to have people come up and then socialize and let them ride horses. I mean, a lot of countries, they never shot a gun, never rode a horse, never caught a fish. And I said, it's a unique experience. And man, this year we had over 300 people, and
Wow.
and haven't had Japanese in 3 years with COVID and everything. And so I had, I think, 14 from Japan, and they said we'll have 50 to 60 next year, and I might for the
Nice.
first time have to do two Mauer Mountains, and I mean you'd like to have everybody, but it was a great time, and we're up. I showed the slide I showed last year at Mauer Mountain, and there was only one company, the DSA put out, Tupperware, USANA, and all these companies, and Medifast grew last year, and or the year before, and they had launched a coaching program. Well, this year they were down about 16%, and everybody else was still down. Well, we're up 18%, and we keep growing, and you know, but we stay true to what we started with and the mission,
Right.
and what Dad and I, just the two of us, did for 5 years, just the two of us, and people want to be part of that because it's all based on results and dynamic compensation for sharing those results and testimonies, and like I made a commitment here when Dad passed, we will not change the comp plan, and we're not paying for distributors and to come over. I mean, it's all above board. It's all, the best compensation, the best products, and quality and results for everything. And we've stayed true to it. And boy, we're seeing the results like nobody else in the industry. And so now we just need to get, spread back out. And we've relaunched Europe, and of course, I mean, it had really gone down with COVID and, and Dad passing and everything. And last month with that relaunch, it over doubled. And
Wow.
it's on a great trajectory. And I'll have Milo go over in August and do 4 or 5 meetings in Germany and go down to Italy. And that's taking off. And Thomas has renegotiated a lot of shipping rates. And so we're looking for better shipping to Australia and to Canada. And so I'm thinking we'll be able to do some things there here in the next couple of months too. So it's spreading and it's going, and it's all thanks to people like you who believe in what we do and have made it a lifestyle. And I guess I'm really getting way off what we're going to record today, but
Well, no. This is important stuff because, people have to build that belief. I mean, I believe in the company
right.
and what you're doing, and you certainly do. But there's
Yeah.
so many people out there that are going, well, how do you know? How do you know that they are what they say they are?
Absolutely.
And I tried to explain people that, if this is everything that I say it is, chances are it's a lot better than what I'm telling you, because I mean, we're learning so much. Like,
Well, and I do so much contract manufacturing too, and and I do it for 2 reasons. One, it keeps my people sharper, but it keeps me invested in the industry as a whole, because I know what I want to do, but I want to be involved in what everyone else is doing and see where they're going. And what I find out is 99% of them are all the business that needs a product. Well, I enjoy research. I enjoy development, and I enjoy having the very best products for the very best price that people can have. It's like when we brought out Fukoiden. Fukoiden in Japan, when we brought it out, Fukoiden products were, and there still are $200 to $300 for a month's supply in Japan. And so when we were selling it, people were marking it up double and making a lot of money in Japan. And I mean, we're the only one in the world that has a patent on being able to hydrolyze and sulfonate that to make it the most bioavailable. And, they were just blown away. But, I mean, we invested literally millions of dollars into the processing and the patent and the research.
Could you explain sulfonation to people? Because I think a lot of people, they hear me say that, but could you explain it to people what it means when you say you sulfonate the Fukoiden molecule? What does that actually mean?
So if we let's think of something simple like collagen. So collagen, in fact, I think in my horse presentation, I think I actually have a picture of a collagen. Let me look here. I think I gave it a Mauer Mountain to kind of explain hydrolyzation. Yeah, so here, this is collagen, but kind of think about it as Fukoiden. So you start with the natural version. And so in Fukoiden, we're looking for the active components, which are basically, they're really kind of a sugar residue, the U, the F, the G, those Fukoiden molecules. So we take it and then you go through a hydrolysis to where you break it up so that it's very small. And so that makes it more bioavailable to begin with. But then what we know is that once you have that in the ocean, it naturally picks up sulfur. Well, our bodies, you see a lot of sulfur drugs. And why do they have sulfur drugs? Because your body wants to absorb those more readily. And so I think back in World War I, they gave sulfur tablets, and
Mhm.
and things like that. But your body has a real affinity for that. A lot of your cells want to absorb it. Well, fucoidan's the same way. And in the ocean, it happens, but it's kind of sporadic. It's never 100%. And there's over 40 different species of brown seaweed. So what we developed was a process that we can take the pure molecule, we can hydrolyze it, we can fragment it, but then we can go through a process to make sure all of those molecules are 100% attached to sulfur. Now what happens when we ingest it, our body has even a bigger affinity. I mean, the demographic studies are just on natural fucoidan, and more people live to be 100 years of age because of that. But we know that if, and they're getting it from the ocean, and sometimes it has a higher level, sometimes it has a lower level, depending on, Mother Nature. But when we take it into the plant and through our patented process, and we make sure that it is the most bioavailable form in size, in structure, in components, and then has sulfur attached to it, then we have a great affinity to pick it up. And so that's really what that is attaching a sulfur molecule to the fucoidan, so that you see it in minerals. You'll add an amino acid. Maybe you'll add glycine or something to it because where you want it to go. It's like the boron is boron glycinate I put in the horse product because you'll pick up the boron more readily. And so you try and chelate, you try and attach. But in the case of fucoidan, it's sulfur that really makes it more bioavailable.
You bet. About 30 years ago, I remember when in my clinic, I started using a lot of MSM, methylsulfonylmethane, and I started reading up on it and where they were getting it from. And I'm sure the MSM that you guys use in the product, it comes from the same place. They were processing trees, and from the trees, from the wood pulp, that's where they got the sulfur. And then I read up on it, and it's like, well, why do we need so much sulfur? And it turns out that years and years ago, our ancestors, we got a lot of sulfur from the food that we eat, but then we depleted the soil, so we're not getting all that natural sulfur. We're putting in nitrogen and things like that as fertilizer, but we're not adding, the old horse manure fertilizer where they're getting the sulfur into the soil. And so that's why we do need to supplement. And your horse product, that's why horses need to supplement as well. But so anyhow,
you hit on a key component for nutrition as a whole. So scientists for years have tried to see, back in 10,000 years ago, and one thing that they all agree on is that prehistoric man, his diet was 7 to 10 times more nutritious. And you go back to the 1920s, the USDA started to report calcium levels and magnesium levels, everything in food. And it greatly has, some things have declined 90% in 90%. Carrots and lettuce and broccoli and corn. All of these components have gone down. But, of course, when you get into fertilizers, farmers paid for volume, not flavor, not nutritional value. And we know that phosphorus, we know nitrogen, those create massive amounts of growth, and I always use the analogy of strawberries. Strawberries don't taste like strawberries anymore to me. When you go, they're big, they're beautiful, they're hollow, they're bland, and those
they're white, not red.
Yeah, and because they're paid on a cup of strawberries, they get $2 or $3, and and that's how they're paid. But the flavor, but more importantly, the nutritional value is gone. And now science over the last 50, 60 years has really looked at what are those situations that, as far as health is concerned. And I'll talk a little bit today on the horse product about boron and how important that is for joint health. And that goes back to a study in 1963, the year I was born, in Australia, that I was looking at, that I realized just how important boron was for joint health. And so should we start on the horse product? I can go on about
let's go that way.
Yeah, that's why I got big into fulvates years ago. As the first one only product that I personally patented was fulvates in use in our previous company. That became a number one around the world because of trace minerals are depleted and fulvates were the most bioavailable. But we had a great Mauer Mountain, and as many people know, we have a lot of Amish distributors that came here. In fact, they were probably 90% of the attendees, and they all have at least one horse, and most of them have 3 or 4 or 5 horses. And this is a product that I brought out, the Max Motion product at Mauer Mountain. That's something that I've used for a lot of years, and I've actually improved upon it the last few years because I'm a horse lover. I mean, I've had horses for over 50 years, and our family, my father, he, since I can remember, has always had a horse, and I've carried it on. I have 7 or 8 hay burners at home right now, and 200 head of cows on the mountain, and they're they're fun, but they're a real utility instrument for us. And my dad used to always say, you can't keep a good horse healthy, and you can't kill a bad horse, and so there's great value in a good horse. I mean, all horses have value, but boy, when you have a good one, if you can get an extra 4 or 5 years and you can keep it sound, that is huge. And anyway, so over the years, I have obviously been involved with nutrition, and I have a middle son, and Dakota, who's not part of the business. He's a professional trainer and rider and part owner in a barn in California. In fact, he was down here a month ago practicing with the Olympic coach. He wants to maybe go to Paris and in hunter jumper, and that's really where he's gone with that. And I remember as a kid, I mean, he jumped everything. We'd go on the mountain and go hunting, and I'd be setting up the wall tent, and he'd be setting up logs. And every horse we had, the pack animals, the riding horses, he's jumping everything. And I remember once he had a real big white mare, and we had to get her hocks injected every 90 days to take down the inflammation, or she would become lame. And this is probably a good 12, 15 years ago. And so, you hate that. You hate to inject a joint that's encapsulated. Anytime you inject anything, the risk of infection, the integrity goes down. But I mean, sometimes, it's the only thing to do. And so I was doing a lot of research into joint health at the time. And so I made up a formulation. And for 1 year, we gave it to that horse, and we did not have to inject those hocks for a year. And the good thing about a horse, they don't lie. Either they're lame or they're not lame. And so I made up this formulation. We didn't inject them, of course. The next is to take it off. And sure enough, in about 90 days, the horse was lame again. We went right back to that situation. And so that gave me a lot of insight into glucosamine. It gave me a lot of insight into type 2 collagen. That's really where I really started to investigate type 2 collagen and what it does on rebuilding a joint, in reducing inflammation, and the mechanisms of type 2 collagen to attach to the Peyer's patch and tell the body, hey, it is okay to accept this undenatured molecule, type 2 collagen, and put it back into a joint and help to rebuild that joint. But one of the greatest problems we have in our own bodies and with horses is inflammation and free radical damage. And so a lot of scientists and doctors suggest if you could reduce inflammation, you would live longer, you'd live healthier. And so I put a lot of thought into reducing inflammation because it brings on degenerative situations in joints, osteoarthritis, in discs, in our backbones, and things like that. Once we get a lot of inflammation and things get out of whack as swelling occurs and heat. And most people know if you have a joint that is swollen, you've got to get ice on it. You've got to get that heat and that swelling down, because like anything, like a balloon, things start to break down and they get out of whack and the pressure builds up. And when it comes back, it doesn't come back 100% and things are destroyed. And so I wanted a formulation that would keep inflammation down, rebuild the joint. But I wanted it with the cofactors. And so about a year and a half ago, I had numerous of our Amish distributors try a formulation, and even have people video the horses before and after, and and they were ecstatic at the results, because these are the types of things that were not on the market, but they're things that I had tried personally for years. And even after that time, I had perfected the formulation over the last year. In fact, my wife has a little 10, 15-pound dog we call Beanie, and he's not real smart, but he's cute. And for 2 months, his right leg, he would run, he's getting older, and he had inflammation in the joint. And so I took this horse product, and it was hard to find a scoop small enough, and I would put it over some meat, and boy, he'd eat it right up. 3 days. And my wife went on a vacation for 2 months, and so I did that. And she came home, or for 2 weeks she was gone. She went to Greece and Israel and with some of the family. And when she came back, she's like, "What happened to the dog?" I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, he's not lame. He couldn't put his leg down. He was just on one front leg, and he couldn't jump on the bed, and he couldn't this and that, and now he's running all over, and he's 9 or 10 years old." And I said, "Well, I worked this formulation up, and I went in on the gram scale and measured out what he needs, and he loves it. And in 3 days, he's putting all the weight back on the leg, and dogs are like horses. They don't lie. Either they're lame or they're not. And so it works. And that's everything. Results are everything. And these are, like I said, originally, they're not products I developed to make a business on. They're products I developed for myself, and because they weren't available on the market. So because we had a large population of distributors that had horses, this isn't a typical product you would bring out in a direct selling company. And it even kind of made me laugh. The Japanese distributors, they bought some to take back to Japan, and usually somebody knows somebody has a horse, and they're not going to find this on the market. And so when I brought this product out, I mean, I've had horses that have broke the bones in their face, and those are fibrous joints we have in the skull, and so I wanted something. I mean, I've had a wire, have vets wire the bones back together. And horses are mean with each other. They kick, they bite, and so you have fibrous joints. You have synovial joints, like a knee that's encapsulated in synovial fluid and has type 2 collagen that makes up a meniscus, and then you have cartilaginous joints in a horse also. So I wanted something that embodied all types of joints, and would reduce inflammation and control swelling, and not only take care of the problem, but help to rebuild it, to try and give us a more healthy, useful lifespan on a horse. I've had horses that, boy, they get to 14, 15, I've rode them hard, and that typically you try and get 20, 22 years out of a horse, and boy, you can keep a good horse healthy. You get a lot more use out of that. And so on the formulation, I've actually printed the formulation on the bottle. I want people to see what is in this, how much they're giving their horses, and they'll be able to see that on the label. I do have a proprietary blend of Boswellia serrata, fulvates, manganese, limamui, which we're familiar with, fucoidan, and then boron glycinate. There's 360 milligrams of this proprietary blend too, that helps us with all of the other ingredients that we have into it. So one of the ingredients I have that you'll see in a lot of horse products is glucosamine. And glucosamine really supports cartilage repair, and it helps to ease a lot of the osteoarthritis and things that can build up in a joint. And it also improves bone function and mobility. Now, one thing that we know with the glucosamine, is that it works best with chondroitin, and it's kind of that chondroitin sulfate, and it's 1 + 1 = 10. And with the two of them in combination, we get a lot better result with that. And I've tried them by themselves, and you'll see products that one will have chondroitin, one will have glucosamine, and some will combine both. But you need the combination and the right amounts of those to get the benefits. Now, you were talking earlier about MSM, and that is really a very key ingredient. And it does a lot of other things with connective tissues, with ligaments and with tendons, and they have, you know, type 1 and type 3 collagen involved with those, but also the hoof wall. There's great benefits with MSM with that. And, you know, people who have horses, there's nothing worse than a quarter crack that gets up in the coronet band of a horse hoof and, you know, causes lameness. And so MSM is vital for good hoof integrity. I mean, you have so many bones, the coffin bone and, you know, the cannon, the pasture, and all these different bones in there. There's so many articulating parts, and MSM helps to maintain a lot of the integrity. But the connective tissues that hold these things together, it impacts inflammation and helps to reduce that also. But I have it there. Now, here's something that a lot of people don't know about MSM. You know, we have, and horses are the same way, we have 3 major antioxidants, and we know the value of antioxidants reduces free radical damage. And when you have a degenerative situation, you have a lot of free radicals, and they're like rust on metal. It just breaks down that material. You know, with rust, it's iron. With joints, it's cartilage, it's bones, it's synovial fluid and membranes that encapsulate. And so with MSM, it helps our body produce glutathione. We have 3 major antioxidants in our body: glutathione, catalase, superoxide dismutase. And glutathione is a precursor to so many more antioxidants. And companies all over have tried to help. You know, we have a glutathione product, and we've had them on skin and ingestible, and, you know, and just like with my horse product, I'm going to try it. And so I would try them, and I'd go to the doctor, and I'd have them draw my blood before and after. And you show me an increase in glutathione levels, and I'm convinced. And I never could. And there's so many of them out there, and I never could show in my blood that I was getting an increase in glutathione. Well, one thing we know about MSM, it increases glutathione levels in our body. And as we get older, just like horses get older, those levels go down, and then we're more susceptible to free radical damage and a lot of the other situations that come along with that, degenerative diseases. And so I have MSM in there to reduce inflammation and to increase glutathione levels in a horse. When we talk about, I have another slide here that talks about collagen repair. And when we're talking about knees specifically, we're talking about a synovial joint, and we have type 2 collagen in this product, and we have a portion of that is undenatured, and that's very important. And that means if we think of the diagram I showed with the molecule of collagen, we leave it intact. And what that happens is in the gut, we have Pryor's patches that attaches that. And when that, it's kind of like a guard station. We ingest it, it attaches to that, and then it tells our body, hey, we've got type 2 collagen circulating throughout our body. Go ahead and accept it. Accept it and use it to rebuild. And that's really a significant part, but it also reduces inflammation. And so type 2 collagen is very critical. It comes from the chicken sternum of all things. And so we have that in there for inflammation and rebuilding. So type 2 collagen is very important. Now, there's so many things that affect a joint. You know, you can have bad genetics, obesity, mechanical stress, diabetes, and typically injury is what we're most common with. So destruction of a joint or inflammation come from many different things, and obviously obesity, diet restriction. But one thing about it, whatever the cause is, inflammation is a major a problem with this. And type 2 collagen, glucosamine, MSM, Boswellia serrata, I attack it from so many things, trying to regenerate glutathione levels within the body. And dogs and horses, and it works. And like I say, if you have a horse or a dog, and this is a situation with them, you'll see it for yourself. And it's not a fix for a broken leg. I mean, you break a bone, definitely can help if you have cracks to help it heal and everything, but the joint as a whole. So one thing about chondroitin sulfate and with glucose, I mean, they are integral, naturally found within, especially a lot of the connective tissues. And a lot of times when we have injury, we stretch and tear tendons and ligaments and a lot of these fibrous components that make up a joint. Joint's very complex when you think of the bone attached to a ligament and attached to a muscle and constriction of a muscle. And so we try and target everything in many different ways. Now, just like with our calcium product, one thing that we know that calcium by itself, no matter what the form, is non-absorbable unless you have the right amount of magnesium. You have vitamin D, you have vitamin K. You need cofactors to absorb it. It's like type 2 collagen, unless you have undenatured a percentage of that, type 2 collagen has no benefit in a joint. And so one thing we add to this is vitamin C. Vitamin C is very critical. I mean, for some reason, my horses don't like to eat oranges, grapefruits, lemons, limes, but they need vitamin C just like we do. And we know as humans, if we don't have vitamin C, we get scurvy and our skin becomes thin and our teeth fall out. And we have to have vitamin C, and horses have to have vitamin C also. But vitamin C is a cofactor when you are trying to rebuild collagen. And so we've added vitamin C to this formulation also. Now, talking about the proprietary blend, you and I before this were discussing a little bit about fulvates, and those come from pristine forests from millions of years ago. In fact, the Japanese went on a tour where we get our fulvates here in Utah, and saw the ribbon in the soil and where they're extracted from. Because think about these forests that they've compiled, the minerals are there, but they're attached to fulvic acid, and that's kind of like chelation. They're much more bioavailable. It's what plants use. That's how we get fulvic acid minerals. We eat plant matter, and plants use it to bring minerals into the plant, and we ingest that, and they also use them to detoxify, and so they make them highly absorbable. But there are so many trace minerals. I mean, we've really scratched the surface on what does eubidium and iridium and all these different things really have. But we know gold has benefit. We know silver has some benefit in very small amounts, and it's hard to imagine, but even arsenic in a very small amount has some benefit. We think of that, we think, oh, that's deadly. Well, obviously it is in large amounts, but these trace minerals were vital, and that's why prehistoric man, his diet was 7 to 10 times more nutritious than our diet today. And so we have added fulvates to this. But one thing that's a key component and a cofactor to proper collagen synthesis and rebuilding a joint is manganese. It also has benefits in reproduction and other situations in the body, but we don't hear a lot about manganese. But you must have manganese to rebuild a joint. And going back to what I was telling you earlier, Doc, about 1963, Australia, they had a scientist there that started to talk about boron. And he found out that it had great abilities in reducing and repairing joints with arthritis. And so he went through Australia And he started taking what people were eating in different regions, and he measured the amount of boron in it. And then he compared it with the incidence of arthritis. And what he found, where you had low boron in the soil and in the food, you had much greater arthritis. And then if you had higher boron, you had lower arthritis. And then he went through and studied what if you supplemented boron, would arthritis levels come down? And they did. And so I've been doing research over the last year into that. And we have added that to the formulation. But once again, I added the glycinate version of that so we get better absorption. But boron, I mean, I think of the old 20 mule team borax.
20 mules.
And a lot of people think of that. And but boron is very essential in our joint health, and especially degenerative osteoarthritis. It has great benefits. In fact, there's products on the market that are designed with just boron for arthritis. A lot of people consume, and you probably will be able to pick this up, but I have a graph from his study on boron, and he did everything from condition of the joint, you know, if it gets worse or better, and you know, motion restriction, swelling, number of joints affected, condition of all joints, pain, meds per day, and the visits with and without boron, and pain with movement. In every one of these categories, with boron by itself and not boron glycinate, it improved the situation. So boron is a very key component. Now, one thing that comes out of the horse racing industry is they are really prone to a lot of respiratory infection. I mean, you take a 2-3-year-old horse and run as hard as it can, obviously their lungs. And one thing they found is that beta-glucan is very vital in reducing inflammation, but also in dietary nutritional uptake. And beta-glucan is a natural ingredient found in barley, found in oats, but it also has a great benefit in reducing inflammation and helping absorb nutrients better. And so we've added this to the formulation also, beta-glucan. Now, synovial joints and skin and so many parts of the body use an ingredient to help retain moisture. And that ingredient is hyaluronic acid. And so a lot of horse formulations, a lot of people will buy just hyaluronic acid and give it to their horses. And this helps to maintain that moisture, because as joints get older, a lot of times they lose that fluid. And especially in a knee, a synovial joint, that is the cushion, and that helps to stop, you know, so you're not rubbing the cartilage off, and pretty soon you're bone on bone, and then you just have a permanently lame horse. So we put this in the formulation, so every day you're giving them hyaluronic acid, because it holds thousands of times more weight in water than even the product itself. It's the humectant in our skin, but also in synovial joints. So this formulation helps to lubricate. It helps give us more of that frictionless motion. And so every day you're giving them that. Now, when I launched this product, I had an audience, 200 horse lovers in the audience, and so I brought up a lot of competitive products, and I was showing them, look at what these products sell for. And I don't know if you can see that, Doc, but I was showing them, if you just bought collagen peptides type 1 and 3, which we have in this formula, and that helps with hair, that helps with skin, and it helps with some types of connective tissues, the ligaments and the tendons. It helps to rebuild those. Here's a product, $167, and all it is collagen peptides type 1 and 3. And then we have a product over here that has type 2 collagen. Boy, what a great ingredient that is. And it does have manganese. And those are the two major. Has lactose, that's just a sugar. Banana flavor, that's just for flavor. Has some preservatives in it. Silicon dioxide, that's just a flow agent. So the main, it does have MSM. So the MSM type 2 collagen, and manganese. Well, that's a piece of our puzzle. That's $193 for
Wow.
1 month supply of that product. That's a great product though with those ingredients. Here's a product for $120. Glucosamine, MSM, chondroitin, does have vitamin C, has hyaluronic acid. That's another piece of our puzzle. That's $120 for that product. And so when I was launching this, I asked people, what would you pay for this product? 250, 300, because I've taken everything they're doing, then I've added lima, mui, and boron and other things too to even make it better. Boswellia serrata, and there's a few horse products with that. That's an incredible ingredient. And they were all hoping it'd be 150, 180. And then I told them, I said, because I buy container loads of collagen, we're the most diversified manufacturer, we're selling this product, distributor cost $89. And that is economical to where everybody with a horse can use it. And there is not a product on the market that will compete with it. And it's not just something that a marketing department came up with. This is something I've worked on for years and years, and I never thought I would bring it out in the company. But because I have a demographic of lots of horse people, and and animal products make you nervous. Like I say, they don't lie. It better work, and there's no placebo effect with an animal, and it works. It's incredible. There's nothing competes with it in ingredients, efficacy, or price. And so I thought we're going to bring it out, and we'll see how it goes, and people are going to love it. So that's the horse product. It's available now, and if you have a horse, know someone with a horse, they're absolutely not going to find anything on the market that competes with it in ingredients or price.
You bet. So, and it's called Max Motion, right? Max
Motion. Yep.
You bet. So I listened to your talk, and first thing that came to mind is, boy, I have all those problems too. I don't have hooves, but my feet get sore. Can I take it?
Well, I sure got asked that a lot the last week. And so I have it labeled for animals, but I'll tell you, outside the alfalfa, everything comes from products that I use and source for human consumption. And so I'll kind of leave it at that people can make their determination. Would I personally have a problem taking it? Absolutely not.
There you go.
But it's a great product.
I remember when your dad came out with this product, when he came out with Transfusium, and and I said, he told me it was all non-toxic ingredients, and I was sitting in his office, and I said, would you eat it? And he looked at me, he said, by golly, he would. And he took out a spoon, and he dipped into the little container and he ate some of it. He said it doesn't taste very good, but he said it's not bad for you. And so, this is primarily a horse product, but a lot of us have dogs. I don't have any horses, but I got a dog. I got a 4-year-old lab. I lost my 15-year-old earlier this year. And, and dogs kind of have, from jumping out of the pickups and stuff like that, they get joint problems and that. So do you just reduce it based on the size of the animal? Is that what you look at?
Yeah, this is built for about an 1,100-pound horse. It's a 30-gram dose, 1,100-pound horse. So, and my wife's little dog, I had a hard time finding a scoop small enough, but I did. And 3 days, it blew me away. I thought, 2 weeks of this, it's going to be interesting. But 3 days, bam, he was back all over that front leg. He hadn't put on the ground for 2 months. And so, so that $89 price for that container, it's for an 1,100-pound animal. My dog is about 110 pounds. My lab that I have now is a little bit bigger than Chewy was. Yeah, you'd get about 10 months out of a bottle. It's very economical for a dog.
Wow. So, because I know I'll have a lot of people, but you mentioned dogs and horses, right?
Yeah.
And I don't really like cats, but my oldest boy does, and my youngest boy has a cat as well. Can cats use the product?
I don't know. There was one ingredient that I was going to add to this for horses, but you'd kill every dog in the neighborhood with it. So
Okay.
I wanted to make sure, because I knew there'd be a lot of crossover with dogs. I haven't really studied the ingredients for cats. I couldn't tell you, to
Okay.
be
So stick to dogs and horses.
That's pretty much. I mean, but you can look into it. What does boron do for humans? What does boron do, for pigs? I mean, look at it if you have a unique situation. But I'll tell you, all these are the same vendors, the same material I use in other products for human consumption. Um, uh, but for dogs and for horses, there's no problem.
All right. Um, and I know I'm going to get this question because I have a nephew who's a vet, and I mean, when you confronted that, is it approved by the
Yeah.
veterinarian societies and things like that?
So I haven't gone through that. So what I've done is I've submitted it to the Department of Agriculture in the state of Utah, and they said it is considered a feed, animal feed. And so because of that, I don't have any unique registration. And so if we ship it from here, if somebody wanted to actually have it in their vet clinic or something like that, there would be an approval process probably within each state for that. If you were to ship it from here to the direct consumer, that wouldn't be an issue. But if you wanted to have nexus or actual physical product warehoused within a state, and animal products are much more regulated than even human products. I don't have to do that with any human products. You can buy all the super mega you want and have it right there, doc. But if you were to warehouse this and display it, there would be an approval process. As far as, and you bring up a good point, there's racing association, like my boy who is professionally, he goes to Europe and buys horses. And that's first thing he said, there's a whole, kind of like the Olympics, there's a whole process to be approved for the racehorse industry and the jumping horse industry. And there's not a lot in rodeo, but they're concerned about steroids and bronchial dilators and things like that. We don't have those in here, but I haven't got through and got that stamp on that at this point.
Okay. So for somebody who maybe races horses like
Uh-huh.
your son, um, then they have to be careful giving it to those horses just because the racing association might say, hey,
Well, the Race Association wouldn't give them a problem unless they drew blood and saw a problem. So there's nothing in this formulation that I put in there that would nix that, but it doesn't have the stamp on there to where somebody who has $1 million horse is going to say, oh, no problem. They want to see that seal on that and say, okay, we know it's been tested for that. I haven't gone to that level yet to get those actual, we'll see what the cells do. If the cells warrant it and they go up, right now this is for horse users and everything, but I formulated it that if we had to go get those approvals, it's easily done. It's just tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it. So the opportunity has to be there.
right on.
Um, but I haven't formulated with any steroids or anything that would cause a problem. It's just, is it worth going to that level to
Right.
do that? Yeah.
So right now, and I'm trying to think of all the questions that my horse and dog
Right.
loving friends are going to ask
Yep.
me, right?
Yep.
And so the one thing that we point out is that it's been approved in the state of Utah as an animal feed, not
Correct.
as an animal supplement, not as an animal
Correct.
drug or anything like that. It's not
Yep.
for it's not
Yep.
for any particular health problem, just like we say with human stuff. If you have a health
What they
problem,
call it is they call it a feed, but they call it a topper, which means if you had some grain or something, you would just take a scoop, put it on top of that. Yep.
okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Okay. That's I'm just trying to think. I was trying to get one of my horse people to jump on the call with me because she'd have
Yeah.
more questions that I don't have.
Yep.
And so, but she was unable to. She was doing a horse training at the time. But anyhow,
We're in uncharted waters as far as direct selling with the horse product. But I had so many horse lovers, and I basically was born on the back of a horse, and so I've done as much into my own horse's health that I thought I got a product that I can't buy on the market. I might as well bring it out and let everybody else experience, because I build it for me because I wanted the best and to have it work. And I'm luckily blessed enough to have a 300,000 square foot manufacturing facility. So I thought, let's bring it out. Let's be competitive. We buy in volumes, and let's bring out the very best product and get it out there to everybody.
You bet. Well, Tom, I appreciate you taking the time this morning to jump on the call with me. I'll get this out to my people on Friday and let them listen. And boy, I tell you what, I mean, it's when I first heard that you were coming out with a horse product, I knew it was primarily directed at that Amish community. But then I started thinking about how many other people, like my sister and my nephew and lots of friends of mine, they have horses and everybody has a dog nowadays.
Oh yeah,
everybody has a dog.
Yep. It's quite a product, and it'll be interesting to see. I remember years ago when Miranda was still alive and going, people got big into noni for horses. I'd see horse trailers, and it had no real benefit, and people still use it for that. And I couldn't see any benefit. I looked at it. We sold the noni product with our previous company. I tried it. I didn't see any difference with it for horses. And I thought it is contagious. Once you get into that industry, it goes like crazy. Well, what happens if you have a product that works?
That actually works.
Then it skyrockets. So I thought, we have enough people because you're right. I mean, to tackle this as a dog product, there's not a lot of consumption for $89. Most dogs, that'll last 2 years, one bottle, so not a lot of turnover. So if people use it for that, great. That's not a great product for our industry. We like things that are consumed once a month. And I thought about bringing out a separate product. I mean, you could sell this $89 a month in a small bottle just for dogs, but I'm looking at the horse industry, and if people get a benefit like I have with my dog, I'll take one bottle home and it'll last me the year for him.
There you go. And I always tell people this. I'm right up front on the commission part of it that we get paid as a distributor. We get 7%. So we're making about $5 or $6 on it. And if you have a dog and they're taking that product over the course of a year, yeah, I'm making $5 off of you giving it to your dog. So it's not that I'm selling it to you because I make a lot of money.
It just makes your life better and your dog's life better, right?
Yeah, I'm going to order some for my dog here as soon as we get off the call.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. Say hey to the rest of the family and everybody down there, and I'll get down there sometime this year.
Sounds great. Good talking to you, Doc.
Thanks.
Take care. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.